This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to yield to Pastor Barnes to lead us in a word of prayer, and after such time we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we bow our heads? Heavenly Father, divine spirit of light and love, consecrate the understanding of these thy servants, their hearts, their will, their whole being for time and for eternity. May their understanding always be obedient to thy heavenly directions, influenced by the knowledge and teaching of thy holy word, of which thou art the infallible guide. May their hearts be inflamed with love of you and of their neighbor. Help them to be ever conformed to thy divine will. May their whole life be a faithful following of the life and virtues of you, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. As they transact business for the effectiveness of every department for this city, for law and order, and for the constituents who have entrusted their confidence unto them. To you, God, who is our Father, be glory, honor, and majesty, dominion, and power, both now and forever. And all the people of God said amen.
Amen.
You have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written? Oh, I'm sorry, before opening the floor, I do have one recommended change I'd like to make, and that is the item you have on the table. It's related to the special event, would be the Starkville High School Homecoming Parade on October the 15th. The only thing they're asking for is the street closure, which would accommodate the parade. I do apologize for not getting this to you until now. I didn't receive it until yesterday, and the parade will take place before our next board meeting. So I would recommend, rather than having a special call just to hear this matter, that it be placed on tonight's agenda for discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, for some time now, some of my constituents have been asking me about more transparency and disclosure on items on the board's agenda, and so that matter is not going away as I represent my constituents. So in light of my constituents' request, not just for tonight, just for continuation, I'm going to respectfully object to a consent agenda to accommodate my constituents.
All right, so do you wish to remove all items from the consent agenda?
Yes, sir, please.
All right, so all items previously placed on the consent agenda have been removed. Alderman Perkins, do you have further proposed revisions?
No, sir. No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Any further proposed revisions? Alderman Maynard.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we add the item for the homecoming parade under Mayor's Business F. Consider the special event permit for the Starkville High School homecoming parade.
The proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to add a Roman numeral 9F, the consideration of a special event permit for the Starkville High School homecoming parade. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection?
Second.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. For information purposes for the board, we received bids on the voucher system trash bags, and that bid came in at a little over $203,000, which is, in talking to Miss Gandy, seemed extremely high. So I would make a recommendation to add under board business item I, that we table that bid and consider re-advertising for refuse and recycling bags and authorizing Ms. Gandy to re-advertise those. And there is at the table, there is a bid RFP for your consideration.
All right, Alderman Maynard, can you go over the agenda item one more time for me?
Yes, sir. Under board business I, it goes from G back to F, it should be GH.
Gotcha.
And so this will be board business I. Discussion and consideration of advertisement for bids for refuse and recycling bags.
Now, right now, I have the moratorium as I. Wait,
I think it's H, Mayor.
or it was F, let's see.
E that's supposed to be an H. E that's supposed to be an H.
That should have been H, yeah. The moratorium should have been H.
I may be operating on a,
So you want to add an I beneath the H?
Yeah, there should
All
be
right.
H.
Perfect.
whatever it is.
I, and now what would it read?
Consideration and discussion of advertisement for bids for refuse and recycling bags.
So the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to add a Roman numeral 10I to the agenda that would be the discussion and consideration of advertising for refuse and recycling bags. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Also at the table, you have a bid sheet of the street sweeper that closed yesterday at noon. I would like to add under item J, consideration of accepting the bid for the vacuum street sweeper. The reason to add this at the table, there is one street sweeper that is available for a 2-day delivery with the company that had the low bid. There's another auction this week. They only have one street sweeper ready to deliver. It would take 165 days to get the next one, which would put us out of fall leaf gathering. So I would like the board to considering this bid that's before you and add that as item J. So Mayor, item J would be consideration of accepting the bid.
It's
as
the lowest and
presented.
best, right?
Lowest and best bid as presented from Samsung Equipment for a vacuum street sweeper.
So the proposed revision to the agenda by Alderman Maynard is to add an item J under Roman numeral 10, board business, the discussion and consideration of accepting the lowest and best bid as presented from Samsung Equipment for a vacuum street sweeper. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Saying none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
No, sir.
Any further, Alderman Nguyen?
Yes. Item 10G on page 4, I'm going to table that because, will the city engineer, Mr. Edward Kemp, and Chief Nichols, will you please come forward, please?
Is that the
Good
four-way
evening.
stop? I'm sorry.
Good evening, and thank you so much. I have been receiving so many telephone calls, as you know, Mr. Kemp, regarding the speeding that is taking place on Linden in the neighborhood of Long Meadow subdivision. And you got together and provided some options. I want us to review those again, and you and I meet with Chief Nichols to see if we can work up some type of plan that would address this issue as it relates to that speeding in that area. I'm concerned, the residents are concerned, and several of the neighbors along that area have children. So I'm gonna be out of town for a couple of days, but what I'll do is, when I return, I'll contact the both of you and schedule a meeting. We'll sit down and explore some options that may resolve this matter. So thank you so much.
So is it your proposed revision to table item 10G?
Yes, it is.
All right, proposed revision by Alderman Nguyen is to lay item 10G, the discussion and consideration of placing a four-way stop at the intersection of Linden and Chestnut in Ward 2 on the table. Alderman Nguyen, is that your proposed
Yes.
revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been laid on the table. Alderman Nguyen, do you have further proposed
No, I'm
revision?
gonna remove that, Mayor. I'm sorry if you misunderstood me. Let's remove item 10G.
All right, so you are the author.
Yes.
You no longer wish to discuss it.
Right.
I don't even have to ask
No.
if there's any objection.
No.
That
Thank you.
item has been removed
Yes.
from the agenda.
Thank you.
All right. Alderman Nguyen, do you have further proposed revisions?
Just for board information, on item H under board's business, discussion and consideration of the moratorium as it relates to landscape, I will not be bringing forward a motion tonight, but I would like to speak with Mr. Haviland, who is representing Mr. Buddy, as he is not here tonight. So I'll speak at that time about that. I
So
wanna
you
leave-
wish for that item to remain on the
Yes,
agenda
I do.
until such time?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Thank you.
Any further proposed revisions?
No, and I yield the floor at this time.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order. Did I hear a motion? Motion has been made by Alderman Carver. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You have no consent agenda. So the next matter before you is the consideration of the minutes of the August 18th, 2015 meeting. Discussion. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve the minutes of the August 18th, 2015 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes recommended by the city attorney as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You now have before you the September 8th, 2015 minutes. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the minutes of the September 8th, 2015 meeting of the Starkville Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the city, meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes recommended by the city attorney as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. We'll now move to announcements and comments, and I have the introduction of several new employees tonight. First, I'd like to introduce our two newest full-time employees, starting with Tierra Cole, Secretary for the Street Department. And Ms. Cole, if you'll join Mr. Kemp over here on the side.
No. You could bring the baby too.
Go get the baby. Many of you may already recognize Tierra. For the past several months, she worked as an intern with the city and then began working part-time in the mayor's office. Tierra is originally from Ackerman and is a graduate of Choctaw County High School. She attended East Mississippi Community College. Tierra enjoys spending time with her husband, Quincy, and her daughter, Aubrey. But during her free time, she serves as the assistant director of the Northern Choctaw Singing Convention. Tierra and her family attend Reform Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. Please join me in welcoming Tierra. I'd now like to introduce Cassandra Robertson. Cassandra is a new radio operator records clerk. Cassandra is originally from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. She earned her associate's degree in elementary education from East Mississippi Community College and her bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies from Mississippi State University. Prior to joining the city of Starkville, Cassandra was a teacher's assistant and third grade reading tutor at East Oktibbeha County Elementary School. Cassandra is the daughter of Dora Jackson and Bernard Robertson, and she is the proud mother of two daughters, Adnan and Tykia. When time permits, she enjoys basketball, reading, and poetry. Cassandra and her family attend Griffin United Methodist Church. Please join me in welcoming Cassandra. All right, my next set of introductions is a little bit unconventional. If our reserve officers could come forward. You are not seeing things. If you'll notice that three of our fire officers are standing up front with the police chief. As a matter of fact, the police chief is probably a little disappointed tonight that they didn't wear their police blues because they did wear their police blues when they were sworn in the other day. But nevertheless, these are our three newest reserve officers. You'll recall sometime back, Chief Nichols introduced the notion of having a reserve program. Well, he is in the process of implementing the reserve program. And I have the pleasure now of introducing our three first reserve police officers. First, I'd like to introduce to you Chief Charles Yarbrough. And Chief Yarbrough is a 20-year veteran of the Starkville Fire Department and was recently promoted to fire chief from his previous position of training officer. In August of 2013, Chief Yarbrough attended the Columbus Part-Time Law Enforcement Training Academy and earned his Mississippi Law Enforcement Certificate. Chief Yarbrough was able to use his training and skills learned in this course to enhance his abilities as a training officer and fire investigator. Before joining the Reserve Officer Program for the City of Starkville, Chief Yarbrough served as a reserve officer in Columbus from November of 2013 until being sworn in with the Starkville Police Department. Please join me in congratulating Chief Yarbrough. Next, I'd like to introduce Fire Marshal Mark McCurdy. Fire Marshal McCurdy joined the Starkville Fire Department in August 2003 as a firefighter. In November 2013, Fire Marshal McCurdy graduated from the Columbus Part-Time Law Enforcement Academy, where he earned his Mississippi Law Enforcement Certificate for part-time reserve police officer work. In November of 2013, Fire Marshal McCurdy started working part-time for Mississippi State University Police Department during home football games. Fire Marshal McCurdy was deputized in March of 2014 by the Webster County Sheriff's Office. During this time, Fire Marshal McCurdy has been through numerous law enforcement training exercises. Please join me in congratulating Fire Marshal McCurdy. And finally, I'd like to introduce Fire Sergeant Matthew Schober. Sergeant Schober has been with the Starkville Fire Department for the last 11 years. In August of 2013, Sergeant Schober earned his Mississippi Law Enforcement Certificate from the Columbus Part-Time Law Enforcement Training Academy. The training and skills he learned from attending the academy have helped to improve his skills as a firefighter, as well as developing a better understanding of the law enforcement aspect of emergencies. Prior to becoming a reserve officer with the Starkville Police Department, Sergeant Schober was a reserve officer with the Columbus Police Department. Please join me in congratulating Sergeant Schober. And that will conclude my comments this evening. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. The first thing, Mayor, and both of these things will be in response to inquiries from constituents and taxpayers. Mayor, if you could just please address when do you anticipate that the new city hall will be open the first day for public business?
All right.
Would you address that, please?
Provided that you approve the item tonight on your agenda for the moving company and move dates to be November 5th and 6th, that is a Thursday and Friday. So provided all goes well in those 2 days. We've never moved a whole building before. Our plan is to be open that Monday, which would be November the 9th.
November 9, 2015 is the first date we're anticipated to be open
Yes,
for business.
and we will need to be closed for city operation on that Thursday and Friday. Now, our employees will be here assisting with the move, but as this building will be in transition, there will be no way to conduct city business on the 5th and
And you'll
6th.
bring something to us so we can take care of that.
Sure.
Okay. Mayor, one last thing. Mr. Clemens, will you come down, please? And Mayor, the reason I'm having Mr. Clemens come down, just want to provide some information to some of my constituents and to the public. This is not for the board, but to my constituents and the members of the public. Just want to be as transparent, disclose as much information as possible. And again, this is solely for their viewing. At the last meeting, the board voted 2-5 to deny a weight limit on Lewis Lane. So I had some people in my ward to ask about that as well as some others. So very briefly, I think Mr. Clemens has maybe some footage that'll last about 4 or 5 minutes. Mr. Clemens, what we want to do is in Lewis Lane is located off of Garrett Road. In other words, if you come from the hospital to the public and to my constituents, if you come from the hospital going west, you get to the intersection of Reed and Hospital, and you take a right onto Reed off of Hospital, and you go maybe about a mile or so. Is that right, Mr. Clemens? On the right, and you're near the 25 bypass. And just so I can be fully transparent to my constituents, you're going to show us some footage coming off of the Highway 25 bypass onto Reed Road. And at that location, there's a sign that says a 10-ton limit. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then also, Mr. Clemens, you're going to show us the entrance off of Garrett, onto Garrett Road off of 389 Jackson Street that shows a 10-ton limit. Is that right?
That's right.
And you're also going to show us, finally, Mr. Clemens, coming onto 180, off of 182 onto Reed, a 10-ton limit. Now, from your viewing of this and your inspection, is there only one way off of Lewis Lane?
There is.
And when you come off of Lewis Lane, you come onto what road?
Garrett,
And when you come onto Garrett, that location, what's the weight limit?
10 tons.
So even without that weight limit there even if you have a 10-ton weight limit on Lewis, you're still going to be at a maximum once you get on Garrett.
That's right.
So if you come onto Garrett in excess of 10-ton, you're going to be in violation. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, would you show us the footage and just kind of let us know, because you recorded this, and just let us know, just stop at some point so the members of the public and the constituents can really understand where we are, and just give us a narrative so the public, a lot of people view these meetings, and I want them to be fully informed and transparent what you're about to show. So you went out there and recorded this, just show this to us.
And I'd like to thank Bill Green for filming this while I drove, so I was not filming and driving. This is, we're actually about to cross 182 here onto Reed, and I'll try to pause it and capture the 10-ton weight limit sign as we approach it. So this is going on to Reed. And
Could you blow that up a little bit at each location so the public can see that?
that's about as big as
That's great, that's great. So we're traveling north on Reed, and that'll take us on around to Lewis. Is that right, Mr.
That's
Clemens?
right.
Okay.
And then this is coming across the Highway 25 bypass onto Garrett.
So we're eastbound on Garrett. Now, once you get here, Mr. Clemens, we are not, stop right there, we are not far from, we're right at Cedar Creek subdivision to the right.
That's right.
Now, how far are we at Lewis, from Lewis Lane at this point?
It's got to be only about a quarter of a mile or so.
About a
I
quarter
think
of
we
a
follow
mile.
on through all the way to Lewis.
So
on
that's,
this
stop
shot.
right there. Let's go back to that street there. That was Cedar Creek, back up a minute.
That's right.
That was Cedar Creek to your right. That's the subdivision, Ward 7. And 6 is to the left, right? Yes, sir. Keep going to Lewis. So we're approaching Lewis now, the first road to the left, is that right?
That's right.
So, so once you get to Lewis, we want to stop at Lewis up here. About a quarter of a mile up there at Lewis. And and all this used to be Reed Road. Now, that's Lewis with a white truck.
That's right.
So you ready to take us down to Lewis and let's see what's going on there?
Sure, we'll continue on.
Okay, let's go ahead. You're the narrator.
This is actually another shot. This is coming the other way onto Gearhead. This is Highway 389 or Jackson Street, and this is Fire Station 3 coming onto Gearhead.
And by how far is Lewis from this point, Mr. Clemens?
I would guess about a mile, 3/4 of a mile.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Can you back up just a little bit, 1 second?
Back up.
Just as a side note,
Okay.
we need to do something with that sign right there. Now you can go ahead. It needs to say something there instead of being a blank back. I mean to bring that up.
That's all right. That's good. You're beautifying the city. That's all right.
This is approaching Reed Road at Garrett. And this is actually on Lewis Lane here.
Pause right there. So that right there, that's one of the trucks you saw coming down there?
That's right.
Okay, that was in Corson? Okay. And how many ways out of Lewis do you have onto a street or highway or road?
There's only one way. You have to get onto Garrett. At the end of Lewis, it turns into a dirt road that actually is an access road for a emergency siren. And this just continues the length of Lewis Lane.
And the end of this road to the north, you know, you can see the bypass, but you can't go out to the bypass.
That's right, that's right. And I'll pause it here at the very end. We just
Did y'all make the loop on the gravel?
We did go out onto the gravel.
That's city road that's never been paved.
Is that
It's
right?
98
It was pretty
129,
rough.
yeah.
And here's approaching well, that was the end of the pavement there.
So, but the bottom line is that all the roads entrances to Garrett as approach to Lewis has a 10-ton limit.
That's right.
Mr. Clemens, I want to thank you, and Mr. Green, want to thank you for devoting my constituents and other taxpayers who inquired about this vital matter. Really appreciate you, and so as they watch this meeting, they'll be well informed and fully knowledgeable about the matter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the time. Thank you.
Any further comments, Alderman Webb?
Thank you so much. Ms. Gibson Gandy and Chief Yarber, will you please stand? You can stay in your, yes. Thank you so much. I reached out to you all, I think it was on last Monday, about some concerns that Alderman Lincoln, who is here tonight, and I had some concerns. I want to thank you all so much for assisting us with that. We look forward to it being done. And again, thank you so much as it relates to an airport matter that I wanted to get taken care of. Thank you. Okay. My next one is Chief Nichols. Will you please come forward? I understand that your department received a grant.
Yes, ma'am.
Will you address the board and tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling me up. In May of this year, I applied for a grant with the federal grant with Department of Homeland Security for 3 additional officers. We applied for it back in May. We just found out a couple weeks ago we did get approved for that. And of course, that's one of my things I was pushing for, additional officers. So they're definitely going to help us with expanding our force. And not only that, it's going to put more officers in the community because it is a grant with community officers policing. And the grant total is upwards of $300,000, with the city paying about 20% of that.
Thank you so much. And am I correct, is it Lieutenant or Sergeant Ward?
Lieutenant Word.
Lieutenant Ward, will you tell him thanks so much for all it is that he do as it relates to our grant programs over there in your department?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Right.
Okay. My next one, Miss Halbert. I emailed you maybe about 2 weeks ago You can stay in your seat. And thank you so much for getting back with me. I was concerned because we had open enrollment for insurance, and I spoke with you about refreshments because in the couple of years that I've been here, our city employees have always received refreshments when they come over doing open enrollment. This year, they did not have any, and I was concerned about that because so many of our city employees, those that don't have hour lunch breaks, they're laborers for our city and they only have about 30 minutes. So I called you and addressed that concern because I definitely want that taken care of. And you shared with me that typically local merchants, you all ask local merchants to provide them some refreshments, and while I'm thankful for that and I'm grateful for any merchants that want to do that. But, and this is not a directive, I'm just only making a suggestion for next year to you and Mr. Boyd. Regions, our board, and I didn't support it, gave us a proposal for $1.7 million for our city. I think it's only appropriate that they be able to provide refreshments to our city employees during that time of enrollment. We should not have to ask, you should not have to be calling around asking any of the merchants to provide our city employees any refreshments. That is the least that they can do as a courtesy to our employees. And again, this is not a directive, I'm just making that suggestion. And again, thank you so much for emailing me back and speaking on the phone. Okay, my next one is regarding to ceasefire. On Tuesday, September 14th, I was watching WTVA News as I was about to leave home, and something interesting occurred. It was announced that ceasefire would be providing this huge jumbotron for the residents of Tupelo. And let me tell you how large it is. And the city engineer and I kind of looked this up, and if you Google this, you would need to type in ceasefire Tupelo and put in jumbotron, and it'll pull up the article. The size of it is 16 feet off the ground. That means that it's 16 stories. Measurements on it are 22 by 33. They provided that on Saturday so that the Tupelo residents would be able to watch the Ole Miss game, which was out of town, and our Bulldogs out of town. I said all of this to say this, and the name of it was called Pigskins in the Park. And I said all of that to say this. We partnered with them, and our board allowed them, embraced, I call it a do-as-you-please contract. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I get telephone calls because they have disturbed some of our infrastructure here in the city. Recently, I called Mr. Kemp about 2 weeks ago, Mr. Kemp. The water was out on Stark Road. This would have been a kind gesture had they done this for our city. After all, it's going to be some of our city residents that are going to be purchasing the fiber for home. So I just wanted to let our residents know they did it for Tupelo. I wish that they would do it for us. I have not reached out to them because I didn't support them, but had I supported this measure, I can assure you that I would have found out the representative for that, and I would have put it in writing to him and asked him to do the same thing for our city. Okay? My next one, Mr. Richard Hilton, and I spoke on the telephone today. I want to thank Mr. Hilton for the letter that he submitted to the mayor and our board in regards to the state flag. The board of the Greater Starkville Partnership wants to see a redesign for the state flag. And Mr. Hilton is one of those people that serve on board. As a matter of fact, he is the chairman. I thanked him today when we had our telephone conversation, and I thank the Greater Starkville Development Partnership for their work on this. It is a huge elephant, and it will take all of us. The city has removed the flag here. Mississippi State's Faculty Senate, as well as JoJo Dodd with the Student Association, that matter has been addressed to them. So I'm just thankful, and I'm thankful to President Keenum for his stand on this. And my last one, I want to acknowledge the presence of the Starkville-Octavia High Emergency Operations Coordinator, Mr. Shank Phelps, who is here with us tonight. Mr. Phelps, if you will, please stand. Thank you so much for coming to our board meeting tonight. And I look forward to talking to you shortly. Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Are there any further comments from the members of the board? Alderman Carter.
I think we need to mention what's happening here next week. Next week is Mississippi Municipal League will bring in individuals from every county in the state and even other states. I've looked on here, we're really well represented. Our mayor is going to be doing the welcome ceremony. I see that the Stennis Institute of Government and Community Development has agreed to teach several CMO courses, as well as the Center for Government and Community Development. I think this is just a testament to some of the growth that's going on in this area. To my knowledge, we've not hosted this kind of conference before. Is that right? Or
We haven't had the capacity until.
do you want to speak to that at any?
Sure. This is one of the municipal league's 3 large conference events of the year, and we have not had a venue capable of hosting a large conference until the opening of the mill.
Thank you. Just want to recognize that and the fact that we've got that, and that's, again, just a testament to the growth and of that project. I know it's coming closer and closer to completion, and it's a really nice project, so, thank you.
Further comments from the members of the board? Alderman Walker.
Just like to point out too, and Mr. Howland, you can help me with the times and dates here, but October the 19th of this month, we are having the comprehensive planning first really citizen kickoff meeting. That's going to be held at the Sportsplex?
Yes.
And at what time do we know the time yet for that?
I believe it's gonna be at 5:30.
5:30. Are we going to press release and getting that in digitally as soon as possible? The plan is to have an opportunity to come out and provide input for the comprehensive plan on that Monday, October the 19th. And then they're going to come back, I believe, and give a final presentation on that Thursday. So that's a week to mark on your calendars to come out, to get your homeowners groups and whoever, other citizens to come out and take part in shaping the future, what the comprehensive plan looks like for Starkville. So an opportunity to come out to the Sportsplex October 19th.
Further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move now to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Alvin Tony Ward 7. My mother always told me, do your own thinking, don't let no one do the thinking for you. We have some situations that is coming up. The daylight saving time we end the first week in November. It'll be dark at 5 o'clock. I don't know what the school situation is, but it'll be very dangerous for kids to be waking up in the dark and going to bed in the dark, or either waiting for the bus. That is very dangerous, and we have Halloween at the end of this month. People love to pull pranks on people. We have police force, we have Marines, we have Navy, we have Special Forces. Those people are not to be as a joke, because they can snap your neck at any time. You know? So they're trained to protect and serve. So let's be careful with the days that come, and we'll have short days and long nights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. We have one public appearance tonight, and it is by the first annual Devin R. Mitchell Day Committee. You will have 10 minutes to make your presentation, and I ask that you remain for any questions or comments the board may have once you've completed the presentation.
I'd like to say good evening to the mayor and the city board officials. And we would like to thank you for awarding the opportunity of having the Devin Mitchell Day. We would also like to thank you for offering us the in-kind services. We come to the board today to let you know that it is in progress, and we're working on it. And we're also venturing out to the other counties that are on the scholarship fund program to give more donations. Also, we want to present the board with a copy of the resolution from the state of Mississippi that was awarded to us for our son. And if anybody else would like to help or donate anything, feel free, with open arms and open hearts.
Thank you very much. That's this our time. All right. Are there any questions? Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the city contributing $500 from the contingency fee fund to support Devin Mitchell Day for the purpose of advertising and bringing to favorable notice the opportunities, possibilities, and resources of the city in honor of the late Devin Mitchell pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated section 17-3-1.
All right, that motion has been made. It's been reduced to writing, passed to the city clerk. Since it's been made and read, reduced to writing, I will not ask for it to be reread without objection. Seeing none, do I hear a second to the
Second.
motion? Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Thank you. All right, the next matter you have before you is a public hearing of the proposed change related to the establishment of an ordinance to address fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities and structures within the city of Starkville. Chief Yarborough. Would you like to introduce this matter?
Yes, but I'll let Arthur McCurdy, Fire Marshal Mark McCurdy introduce the matter.
This ordinance was something that we've actually been working on for quite some time, for a few years now. We've been working with the city attorney for a while on it, and it's something that we felt that it was time to bring it forward. Basically what it's dealing with is, as Starkville grows, as the community grows, which is actually a good problem to have, because we're growing, more students, the university's growing, and as more people come in, we run into issues with overcrowding. And it's mainly overcrowding of nightclub establishments or assembly occupancies, and mainly football games are the big problem weekends. So this ordinance is designed to address how we can enforce overcrowding issues in nightclubs.
Questions or comments for the fire chief and the fire marshal? Alderman Carver.
Okay, so basically I see, shouldn't they already be having all these policies in place as a local business owner? I mean, they've got a counter, they know their fire code capacity, or if that's the right terminology, and I read this and I saw there's a counter that's gonna be responsible. Twofold question, does this require any additional manpower from having basically you out on a Friday or Saturday night to enforce this, or will you respond by telephone call, or how's that gonna work?
We enforce it now. When I say we enforce it, we go out and we just don't have the backing of the ordinance to support us, but we go out and try to enforce it now. So typically on football weekends, myself and the other fire marshal's team at Mullen will go out and check the nightclubs for overcrowding.
Isn't this pretty much already enforced by state? Is that maximum capacity on the law, on the doors that you see now, that has no backing with it?
Yeah. We issue those. The fire department issues your occupant load. So it's supported through the codes, the 2012 codes that we already have adopted, but the codes don't address penalties. They just address that you have to do it.
So this is putting some teeth on that. I mean,
Exactly.
City attorney, does this shift any liability, say a club owner or nightclub owner, restaurant willingly exceeds their capacity? Does this shift, since we're approving this, does this shift any liability to us as a city?
No, I think it would do the opposite. I think it would protect us, since we're putting laws on the books to help that not to occur, and that would certainly be on the business owner if they chose to ignore that. The liability would fall to them.
Do you approve this?
Yeah, I helped draft it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Alderman Little.
He covered those points.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move to the citizen comment portion of the public hearing. Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments on the proposed ordinance may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Alvin again. I hope that the ordinance work, but let us be careful, because we have people with mental illness, and we also have people that have post-traumatic stress, whatever that is. Let's be careful how we do things. We don't want anything to backfire.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. further comments? Are there any further comments on the proposed ordinance? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Any concluding comments by the members of the board? Any concluding comments? Seeing none, that will conclude the first public hearing on the proposed ordinance change or ordinance adoption related to addressing fines and penalties for overcrowding of facilities. The next matter you have before you is the discussion and consideration of the appointment of Emma
So
Gibson.
moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to appoint Emma Gibson Gandy, Sanitation and Environmental Services Department Head, to the Golden Triangle Solid Waste Authority to complete the term left vacant by Taylor Adams, former Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Starkville, with that term expiring on December 31st, 2016, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration. A motion has been made by Alderman Carver Alderman Carver. Prior to recognizing that motion, let me make one introductory comment and then open the floor. And that is, when we were having our discussion earlier, Alderman Perkins raised a valid point that the board needs to take some action on officially closing City Hall for operation on those moving dates. Rather than coming back at another date, I would prefer that be included in this motion, but it's not presently asked for.
Mayor, would you just recommend whatever you want to include in the motion when we can do it?
Yeah, Alderman Carver, I would recommend the motion be as written, with also ordering the closure of City Hall to operation on November 5th and 6th.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the contract with Mayflower Transit, the lowest quote to move City Hall furniture and equipment to the new municipal building on November 5th and 6th, 2015, and for City Hall to be closed for operation on November 5th and 6th, 2015, as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter you have before you is the discussion and consideration of entering a joint parking agreement.
So moved.
The motion has been made by Alderman Carver to enter into a joint parking use agreement with Griffin United Methodist Church for parking at the new City Hall, with costs associated with the agreement to be paid from the City Hall construction budget and the municipal building line in the general budget as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I was just gonna say, I think everybody knows I voted against the project. I thought from initially there was gonna be an inadequate parking at City Hall the way it sits now. Moving forward to where we are now, I think this solves that. So basically Griffin United Methodist owns it, and I think with 1 day notice, they at any time get to retain their property, is that correct? That's right. So it does solve the situation.
Further discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, just an observation, this is a very good move here to get more parking. Just one question to you, Mr. Mayor, you work closely with this. Do you think that if we were to stripe that, just an inquiry, I mean, I'm not, that we'll get more parking space, for that, for our parking, as opposed to just paving it, because people are just gonna park it wherever they can stop, and we had a striping, which may not cost that much more, then we may can get so many more additional spaces. Could you comment on that, what you think about that?
As a matter of fact, the city engineer has prepared a design of what striping pattern would look like, and by his estimate, it would take the parking count on the parking lot from what is currently 29 up to 50. I have reviewed that design with the pastor of the church, the president of the board of trustees, and the president of United Methodist Men for the church, and all reviewed the design favorably.
Mr. Mayor, with that being said, could you incorporate some language in this agreement so the board will be speaking, but I think that the current language speaks about paving, just say paving and striping, however you want to add it in there. the current agreement, Mr. Attorney, does not speak of striping, so could you all give us some language you looking at that agreement so we can include what the mayor just said, please, sir?
Yes, sir, Vice Mayor, in Section 3.
Yes, sir.
Which currently states the city shall pave and maintain. I think it would be just as simple to say the city shall pave, stripe, and maintain. So we could just add the word stripe into Section 3 and put that as an attachment in the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, would you see to that being added to this motion, if that is acceptable?
All right, without objection, we'll add to the joint use agreement in the motion, the city shall pave, stripe, and maintain the pavement at the church parking lot. Previously, paragraph 3 read, the city shall pave and maintain the pavement in the church parking lot. After this amendment, it would read, the city shall pave, stripe, and maintain the pavement in the church parking lot. Is there any objection to adding that change? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the document has so been amended. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is the discussion and consideration. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve a request to Pink Out Starkville for the Tackle Cancer event and waiving all banner permit fees associated with the request as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is the discussion and consideration of
So
paying.
moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to pay an invoice from Golden Triangle Planning and Development District out of the contingency budget line for the implementation of the Code Red emergency notification system as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes. I would like for Mr. Phelps, if you will you come forward for me, please? Mr. Phelps, if you will, just for public consumption, will you state your title when you sit down for me?
Okay. My name's Shank Phelps. I'm the Emergency Management Director of Octavia County and also the E911 Director.
Okay, thank you so much. After the occurrence, Mayor and members of the board, that took place on the campus of Mississippi State last month, of course, I had advocated that we need a code red way before now. And it's just that now seems to be the perfect time to embrace that, since that occurred with Mississippi State. So that was on a Thursday, and that Friday, I told the mayor, I said, Mr. Mayor, we need to do this for our city, so I'm certainly glad that he brought that forward. So I was already in the process of doing some homework on it, so I was able to meet with you along with our administrative assistant, Ms. Carlisle, on last Tuesday, because I wanted to learn all of this before I brought it forward to the board. How is it implemented? Who will operate our system? Because those are important events to know in case something happened, and who will be responsible for disseminating that information. So I had to learn that somebody will have to possess those codes, and who that person is crucial. Paperwork goes along with it. Spoke with Mrs. Bell yesterday doing a conference call. So Mrs. Carlisle and I spent probably about an hour and a half, as you suggested that I do. I understand, she explained to me that they don't actually provide training on site or anything, but there are webinars that probably, that any employee that we assign to this would definitely need to be trained through that. So I was glad to know that. So I want to share some things with our board members. The Code Red warning services provide the licensee the ability to generate high-speed notification to geographically selected calling areas and our listed databases via an internet-based software application. The service allows licensees to utilize an interactive voice response telephone service to record messages and initiate notification projects. The service is run by software that is designed to be active 24 hours per day, 365 days. Citizens can utilize the service by choosing to receive text or email notifications by registering their contact information with the Code Red service through the opt-in process via the Community Notification Enrollment page. The system will provide information sent out by National Weather Service regarding winter storm warnings, deep freeze warning, tornado warning, to all telephone numbers that are listed in that database. The system can also be used to send important information updates and notifications to anyone within the parameters established within the geographical boundaries or within a defined contact list. Example, notifications can be sent out regarding the testing of the civil defense sirens or boil water notices, Mississippi State, local law enforcement, emergency management, area businesses, and our citizens. Someone will have to maintain the records. Information can be shared via mobile app, tweeting, texting, and social media. Information will be maintained by Code Red for the life of the contract. Specifically, notifications that were sent out through the program can be retrieved for statistical and report purposes. So what the public is about to learn, who is that person for the county that possessed that code?
As of right now, me, the director, Kristen Campanella, the deputy director, and our 911 dispatch.
Thank you so much. Very important code because not anyone needs to get access to that code.
No, ma'am.
I'm going to, Mr. Phelps, is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
I'd like
please?
to add a little bit.
Please do.
I'm thankful that the city went along with the Code Red, and y'all in the same predicament we are with the county. We got so many college kids here. We got 20,000 kids here in this town. Their mothers and fathers send them up here. And this Code Red, like I said, it's like the maroon alert. It goes through your cell phone. It's not like the old FM alert. If we can just get out to these apartment complexes and make sure everybody signs up when we get ready. We still tweaking with it. It's a very good system, and I think it's gonna be wonderful for us, just like listening to y'all talk tonight. You can pinpoint, just say Green Oaks. If you have a water main bust and you're in a boil water notice, you can just pick Green Oaks and send a signal to them. If they live in Green Oaks and they're signed up, they got the boil water notice. Street closures, you was talking about that earlier. It's just so much that it will do, and I think we're really gonna enjoy it, and it's gonna be a positive thing for Starkville and Oktibbeha County.
Okay, thank you so much. Alderman Carver, I'm gonna let you read over something. This is the motion that I had proposed because I had some superior knowledge on this, knowing that we would need to assign some of our personnel to be over the code. So I would like for you to read that, and if that is okay, I will ask you to take back your motion and we utilize this one.
Okay, I've got a question before we do that. If you're saying we can pinpoint down to a boil water notice is a good example, road closures and things like that, I was just gonna maybe put this out there for the board, like we do with the animal control ordinances, or, you know, we put the Humane Society, put some notifications. This might be something we wanna send to our constituents, that the opportunity to receive these kind of alerts. You saw on the active shooter situation we had on campus, Maroon Alert afterward tended to be probably one of the biggest positives that came out of that. And so I think I would think that we would eventually like to offer this, the opportunity for anybody to opt into it. I don't know, it's just a thought. That's an incredible service to provide.
Anybody can opt into it, and I told them, it's by population, it's how you pay for it. And I told them, we got extra 20,000 college students in this town. They said, that's no problem.
Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And when I spoke with Ms. Bell yesterday, Mr. Phil, she shared with me that we would need what's called an internal contact group. So that means that the mayor, as well as the members of the board, our police and our fire department, we would be notified first. And then in addition to that, then the residents of our community would be notified. Will you thank you, Mr. Mayor. Will you take a look at that? And if so, I would like for you to withdraw yours and we'll utilize that, because we've got to put our personnel in there who would control those passwords.
Or is that okay?
Yeah, the motion you'd want to use is to rescind and restate, and we can take that without objection.
I think Alderman Perkins had some.
All right, do you want to read what you'd like your motion to be rescinded and restated?
You can take it.
Okay. Move approval of the city paying an invoice from GTPDD out of the contingency budget line for the
All right,
implementation.
hold on 1 second. I got to get this procedurally right. Alderman Carver, are you withdrawing your motion? Because she can't rescind and restate your motion.
Yes, sir.
All right, so without objection, Alderman Carver has withdrawn his motion. Seeing no objection, now Alderman Nguyen, you're recognized to make a motion.
Okay. Move approval of the city paying an invoice from GTPDD out of the contingency budget line for the implementation of the Code Red Emergency Notification System. That Starkville Police Chief Frank Nichols be the administrator of the system and be the custodian of the applicable password. That Starkville Assistant Police Chief Chris Thomas serve as the backup system administrator, and that the Starkville employee Tammy Carlisle serve as the city's liaison to coordinate efforts with the Emergency Management Association E911 Operations Coordinator for Octavia County. I have that reduced to writing.
All right, motion has been reduced to writing, and it's been read. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by, seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I would. A selected chief, this is something that we can entrust him to. After all, he is our top chief here for our city. Entrusted an assistant chief, Chris Thomas, because he would be in command if anything were to happen to our chief or he's out of town. I requested that Mrs. Carlisle do this because she has training with Homeland Security and with OSERV for Octavia County as one of our first responders. So thank you so much. I yield the floor at this time.
Further discussion? Alderman Perkins, did you want the floor previously?
No, go ahead and recognize Chief first. Recognize him first.
All right, Chief.
Yes, sir, thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. I just have one question, like Mr. Phelps talked about, if there's a water main or something broken. I don't wanna be responsible for a water main broken and send out a message for that, so, I understand, if the police department is contacted, we can do it through our dispatchers who are always on duty, and that would be fine, so as long as I understand that.
Alderman Carver.
I think in a typical chain of command situation, if we could word it where if it's a non-emergency type situation, that it fell on to Tammy Tindall Carlisle. Because I understand if it's an emergency situation, I want you to have it, but you're
No
right,
doubt.
you shouldn't be handling water main
Yes, sir.
type notice.
Because I know nothing about that.
Mayor, may I be?
All right, Alderman Maynard.
Chief, while you're up there, I do want to caution, I think, and Mr. Phelps, you can follow up with Mississippi State, but I think early on they learned that the maroon alert can be too much of a good thing. You really need to be very selective in when you send those out so that people truly pay attention when they get one.
Yes, sir.
I know early on, they would fire those out quite regularly, and people got to the point where they kind of ignored them because of that situation. They got a better grasp of that, so I think, I'm sure that's something that the Code Red folks have discussed with you all, but I think that's something to consider as well. Need to be
You can't send too
selective.
much out. My main concern is emergency management is weather.
Right.
Winter weather, tornado weather, flood, whatever. That's my main concern.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things that does not need to get put out. And I have different opinions on it. What happened at Mississippi State, I don't think Starkville needs to put it out on Code Red. And the reason I'm saying, you got kids that go to school out there from Starkville, and and mom and daddy signed up for that. Where are they going? They think a shooter's out there where their kids are at. That's my opinion. But my biggest concern is the weather.
Alderman Perkins.
Thank you. Mr. Phelps, I'm real old school, so I'm not computer savvy, all this cold green or yellow, whatever color it is. So I want to ask these questions, just pure information. And in your answer, tell me what the database is going to be set up at, will there be any further cost to the city? And I don't understand how all this computer stuff works, but explain to me whether or not the taxpayers going to have to pay any money. Maybe we have to have any additional staff beyond this. Is the county going to be seeking any money from us? Just answer all those things for me.
Yes. The database is in another state somewhere with the
Yes, sir.
Code Red. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And it goes through the, cell towers, satellites. The cost is a set cost per year. It's a population of the city and
Yes, sir.
population of the county. And to be honest, I think that the county and the city is paying within $100 or less for the same service. And it's once a year.
Okay.
And I don't see it going up.
Okay. And where would the database be set up at?
The database is set up with Code Red.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so it's in another.
Yes, it's another state. I can't
I
remember, Ms.
got you.
Wynn, when we talked to this.
That's fine. I just want, I didn't know whether we set up, with the county to say, I didn't
And
understand.
they
all that.
record everything. I mean, anything that we put on Code Red is documented.
And so how is that, done through the phone system? And you just kind of tell me briefly how that works.
Well, it's just like, when we send a signal out, it goes to the satellite towers.
Okay.
And like I said, when we pinpoint a certain spot, I imagine in Green Oak subdivision, I'm just using that as an example,
Yes,
probably
sir.
hit off of one tower.
Okay.
And then we could, we was, like I said, we still tweaking with it, playing with it. It's new, but we can get on there and swell up. We can make it a little bit bigger than Green Oaks to make sure you get everybody, or you can make it a little smaller. But, and it's just technology this day and time.
So if this motion passes, just for information, that's all, about when would this go in effect, roughly?
I'm gonna say at the latest in 2 weeks, and the reason I'm saying that, we putting different agencies in here right now. Fire chief, his command staff, the police chief, his command staff, his SWAT team, the sheriff's department SWAT team, the board of supervisors, get all your information to board of Aldermen. We can put in different agencies, and if we wanna send certain, I mean, you might wanna send, the mayor might wanna send everybody on the board a message, and he can get up with Ms. Carlisle or Mr. Nichols and send a message. It just goes just to the board.
And my last question to you is, in light of the comments been made where everything may not need to be disseminated through the Code Red, and in light of the fact that it's gonna be effective in 2 weeks, so how will you work out the mechanics, or what are your plans on working with the police chief to ensure that there is some detailed understanding as to what goes out?
Well, we got social media we put it out on.
Okay.
Our website, city needs to put it on their website, how to sign up. It's several different, I wanna make flyers out and go to the apartment complex.
Right.
In Starkville, in the city and in the county. We need to get them, if they send rent out, or they need to get somebody to post it on every door to where every apartment, which probably got 3 or 4 college students in there, can sign up for it. Because if they don't sign up, it's not effective. We've got to make sure people sign up.
And to be real clear on that question was, in other words, the chief mentioned about the water main, so, I mean, how, are you gonna get with our chief so y'all can just narrow it down exactly what needs to go out? Y'all will get that done?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's my question.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Very good information. Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Alderman Maynard.
Mr. Phelps, is there a limit to the number of alerts that can go out in a given year?
It's minutes on there, and that's on the voice call. So you can leave a voice message. You could say, tornado coming through Sturgis, the path is coming through Longview, South Starkville. And that's another thing that I like about it, that I'm reading up on, is now, when you hear about a tornado warning for Octavia County, if you live in the north part of the county, and the tornado's in the south part of the county, a lot of people's are nervous, they're taking shelter. And when really the tornado's not gonna affect them at all. It keeps up with the path. The National Weather Service, anything the National Weather Service puts out tornado-wise or winter storm warning, if they put it out for Octavia County, it's going to your cell phone.
So for text message, there's no limit?
Text message, emails are no limit. It's just a voice call, but I think it's like 25,000 minutes. I mean, she said nobody's ever used it up.
Alderman Webb.
Okay, thank you so much. When I spoke with Ms. Bell yesterday, as a matter of fact, in the documents that were in our board packet, Alderman, it speaks about those 25,000 minutes. According to Ms. Bell, she said you're never, ever gonna use up all of those minutes. So it sounds like a small amount, but you're never gonna use all of those. That's what she assured me of yesterday.
And matter of fact, like I said, we're still tweaking with it, playing with it. We leaving voice messages. She said whatever we use now, she's gonna put them back up. We're trying it now. That's why I'm saying 2 weeks, so we can get everything taken care of. I wanna do a press conference, get with the newspapers. I think it was the Starkville Dispatch said they was gonna try to talk to the editor and put it in the paper for 10 days to how to get signed up for the Code Red.
One more thing. If for some reason, and I do not perceive us to go over those 25,000 minutes, this information that I got from her, as well as it was submitted in our board packet, it would be 26 cents per minute. But again, I don't anticipate that we'll go over that.
Don't think so, but she said nobody's ever went over.
Further questions or comments? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Thanks, Mr. Phelps.
Thank you.
may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Phelps, thank you so much for meeting with me on last Tuesday. I learned so much about your job, and when I left there, this is what I said. I would not want to be Mr. Phelps.
Sometimes I wonder what I'm doing.
But
Oh, I
thank you.
enjoy it, that's my job.
Thank you so much.
I've done it for many years, taking
And
care of the citizens.
and again, thank you for coming and thank you for your
Thank
service.
y'all. Mr. Latimer, did that, not saying, did that Columbus Air Force Base fireman get up with you?
He did.
Okay.
It's in the Air Force's hands right now
Okay.
on that document.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps.
All right, the next matter before you is the special event permit for Starkville High School homecoming. City attorney advises that their insurance is not yet the insurance policy that our special event policy calls for. So I would recommend approval, subject to the submission of a policy approved by the city attorney.
Move approval.
Mr. Mayor, may I put the specifications on the record,
You
just
may.
to be clear? The policy they provided only had a $500,000 general liability limit and did not include any automobile liability provision. Our special events permit calls for $1 million in general liability and $1 million in auto liability. And my thought is, when you've got a parade with people sitting in convertibles, semi hanging off the back, we need automobile coverage. So I would advise that the board approve it pending the school district providing $1 million or certificate evidencing $1 million in general liability, $1 million in automobile liability, including owned, non-owned, and hired autos, and naming Starkville as an additional insured with a waiver of subrogation in favor of the city. And I've got that in writing for the city clerk.
All right, Alderman Vaughn, did you wish to make that motion?
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of the Starkville High School homecoming special event permit as presented and requiring the changes to the insurance policy as recommended in writing by the city attorney. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of repairing the bridge on Yellow Jacket Drive and authorization to advertise for the project. Discussion. Alderman Maynard.
Board, if you'll remember, 2 meetings ago, I think it was, Alderman Vaughn brought to our attention a bridge that was in disrepair on Yellow Jacket Drive. Mr. Kemp and Alderman Vaughn had gone out and looked at the bridge and examined it. There were photographs in your packet that you could clearly see the bridge is in need of replacement. The question at the time was, how would we fund the replacement of this bridge on short notice, and when would this construction take place? After talking with Mr. Kemp, I think, and also talking with the school board president, I think the idea Mr. Kemp suggested was to begin construction on this project, if approved, the Monday after school closes for the Christmas break, and move forward as quickly as possible until it's done, realizing that the school may have to reroute traffic early on in the spring semester. Mr. Kemp was, and you can come forward and address this as well, but he was more concerned, I think, don't let me speak out of turn for you, but getting the work done quicker rather than waiting until summer to do the work. So the second question was how would we pay for this non-budgeted item? And I offer the following solution for that part of the puzzle. I would recommend that we take $21,634 out of the insurance savings for this past year, $11,000 out of the CAO travel line item that was in this budget, $20,000 $28,000 coming from 2 months of the CAO budgeted salary and 3 months coming from the budgeted assistant planner salary line item. Mr. Sanders with the community development has indicated that he doesn't intend to fill that assistant planner position until January. We budgeted for beginning October, so there's 3 months there in lapse salary that we could capture from that. And then 20,000 out of contingency will make up the, roughly the estimated $80,000 required to complete this project. And with that, Mayor, I would move approval of repairing the bridge on Yellow Jacket Drive and authorize to advertise for the project to be completed.
Do you want to identify those funding sources in the motion?
With the funding sources as provided in writing that we just discussed to the clerk.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the repair of the bridge on Yellow Jacket Drive and authorize the advertisement of the project as presented with the funding sources as identified, as read and presented in writing to the city clerk. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Very briefly, just want to commend the budget chairman for identifying those funding sources. Those are some very good funding sources. I like those, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Yeah.
Further discussion. Alderman Walker.
Can we just go over those one more time? I've got CEO travel, that was 11,000. What are those? Can you just read those? One more time?
Savings from the insurance policy, $21,634. CAO travel line item, $11,000. Lapse salaries for the 2 months for the CAO, that's at $9,200 per month. And then 3 months out of the assistant planner at $3,550 per month. 20,000 out of the contingency line.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of making the Lake Point Lane and Huntington Park Drive. Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of making the Lake Point Lane and Huntington Park Drive intersection a four-way stop and making the intersection of Langston Cove and Huntington Drive a four-way stop as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker's here from their homeowners association. They've been experiencing ongoing speeding situations along Huntington Drive. And it runs east and west, so in the mornings and evenings, you got the sun factor to deal with pedestrian traffic crossing the streets. And they feel that the stop signs that they're gonna put in at their expense, the ornamental stop, the signs that they use in that neighborhood, they're gonna put in at their expense, and it's really mainly gonna impact those residents in that subdivision. And it was a unanimous vote with their homeowners association that they move forward with this project, and I yield the floor.
Further discussion. Alderman Perkins.
What's your citizens?
Tom Walker.
Mr. Walker, I certainly support whatever the citizens want, and it seems like it's a good safety measure, and we just want to commend you all for using your own funds for the course of the city. I would have supported you without that, but that's a very great, nice subdivision down there. Very nice subdivision. Yes, sir.
Further discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is a discussion and consideration of appointing Gaddis Hunt to the Heritage Museum Board.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to appoint Gaddis Hunt to the Heritage Museum Board, filling the unexpired term of Mr. Bill Poe, with the term to expire September 30th, 2017, as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda
May I
is.
be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the appointment of Mr. Lauren Bell to the Starkville Housing Authority for a 5-year term, with said term expiring September 5th, 2020.
Alderman Maynard has made a motion to appoint Lauren Bo Bell to the Starkville Housing Authority for a 5-year term, with said term expiring September 5th, 2020, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of a timeline for the submission of agenda items. Alderman Maynard.
Yes, sir. Mayor, I put this on the agenda with staff has been having, and you can see with the length of today's agenda, a challenge in getting everything put together in a timely fashion as things are presented. At the deadline on Thursday, 4 o'clock, that just gives them one day to put the agenda together, get it, Joel to get it uploaded, get it out, get it pushed out to the public. My proposal is to back that information up one day, having city staff submit their items no later than 5 p.m. on Wednesday preceding a meeting, and that the board present those items no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, with anything added at the table being approved by a majority vote, as we do. So with that, I move that any and all items for agenda submission be provided electronically to the appropriate city staff no later than 5 p.m. on Wednesday preceding the meeting at which they're to be considered. That the mayor and board submit items by noon of the preceding Friday. Any items on the table or the board at the time of the meeting must be approved by majority vote to be added to the agenda.
Can you pass that writing to the clerk?
Yes.
Motion has been made, reduced to writing without objection. I will not ask for it to be reread. Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I just think this will help city staff be more efficient in getting the package together in a timely fashion, and take a burden off them having to stay late on Fridays, and burden off Joel to get it uploaded to the internet.
Mr. Turney.
Alderman Maynard, I'm looking at that word electronically in the first line. Is it your intent that they only be submitted electronically, or would hard copy as well suffice? Because I don't want anyone to argue that it's only an electronic submission if it's your intent that hard copies would count.
It's gonna have to be submitted electronically to get it uploaded to PDF, whether that's scanning it into PDF. I guess I think one of the other issues is the naming of those files once they're submitted, so they can be easily identified as well. That doesn't need to be in the motion, that's just more of a housekeeping thing.
I've been pushed through that process several times. I don't actually come to that. I just uploaded it today, but it was a larger task, and I think the steps that you mentioned will help standardize the way those items are submitted. And they can be submitted electronically. I think you're speaking to the deliverable, the final product. They still can,
The way it reads now, the most, I think, accurate interpretation would mean that the only way somebody could submit a document to city staff on Wednesday by 5 o'clock would be by an electronic copy. They would be bound to an electronic copy.
yes, so the departments would send their material to the person assembling the larger document electronically. That's
I
correct.
guess I would defer to the city clerk to determine the best way she would like it, since she's the one having to pull it all together.
I'm just doing the agenda, but it is easier if it does come electronically so that we can copy and paste to the agenda. times the public, if they have a public appearance or anything, they will bring it in handwritten, and we do scan those in. But for department heads, electronically is.
So that would still pass
Something
through an
that all-
internal submission process, though. If it comes in from the public, it's gonna be submitted internally, yeah, from your office.
Okay,
The department heads have always submitted electronically.
okay. I just wanted to raise that issue for clarity purposes.
Further discussion?
Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Mayor, just for one housekeeping for clarity, I just want to make sure I know who to call for the agenda, who I need to call, Ms. Carlisle or the city clerk. I don't need to be calling 2 or 3 people to find out what I need to do.
The
Can
city
you give some
clerk,
instruction?
the city clerk will prepare the agenda, and Ms. Carlisle will prepare the packet. But the agenda runs through the city clerk.
No, that was my thinking, so I'm old school, so I was thinking, I want to be sure at the table. Thank you, thank you.
Further discussion? Alderman West.
I don't exactly know where to start from. On September the 16th, Alderman Carver, probably like many of us, was concerned about us, information coming to us at the start of the board meeting. Just for public consumption, those watching, this is how, when you hear them talking about our e-packet and all of that, these are our documents. I personally, as an alderman, take my time to go through them. That's the reason I knew about the 25,000 minutes I had discussed with her and so on. I'll know about all of that because I take my time to read all of my documents. It's very difficult coming in here as an alderman and people are putting things on the table that I have no knowledge about. Sometimes as an alderman, it has happened to me 2 times that I've had to be via telephone. Who's gonna give me those documents when they can't give those to me through the telephone if they're gonna appear here at the table? I'm gonna vote for this, but I'm very uncomfortable with it. If we expect our department heads to do this, we need to submit all of our information by the deadline on Friday and not be bringing things to the table that we don't have knowledge on, but yet we're making decisions on and haven't had an opportunity to read the paperwork. I yield the floor at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further? Alderman Carver.
I hope this passes, and with that, I mean, the length of and the amount of information we have, it shouldn't be an issue. The issue is it's 7 o'clock now, we've got 31 more items to address, plus executive session. I mean, we're all working professionals here, lots of us have wives, husbands, young children, old children, significant others that we'd like to go home to and spend some time with. I think, again and again, we play this political game. You come in here and things are pulled off consent. No disrespect to the vice mayor, but if you do your job as an alderman, you should be transparent enough that your constituents know what's going on. I don't think you're doing a service to the city to have us sitting here yet again till midnight tonight. I don't think it's very, it's probably not the most efficient and effective way to run this government. I think when you're fresh into the evenings, once we run through the consent agenda, we can address the major topics that we need to discuss, but you can't do that. Last time, we were discussing, I think, issues at 11:55 at night. I think this is an injustice to our city staff who have to sit here through this. It's 7 o'clock. I will be here until it's over with, but again, if you're doing your job, it is transparent, and it's much more efficient and effective to run this government through a consent agenda. So whatever steps we have to take to get out of here earlier than midnight, I will be supporting this. But again, the length and the depth of our packet is not the problem. It's the fact that we're going to go and roll call through this, or motion by motion through this whole agenda. We've got 31 more items. I'm counting on midnight. We'll go for the goal. We'll stay here all night, but this is ridiculous. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of appropriating $2,000 from the.
They move.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to appropriate $2,000 from the contingency budget line to the Greater Starkville Development Partnership to help defray costs associated with the MML Small Town Conference Welcome Reception as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Mayor,
Measure clearly
Do
passes.
you have to for time constraints, if we're gonna be here till midnight, by Robert's rules, do you have to read verbatim every one of these motions?
I've got to read it back to you unless you present it in writing. And that's why I ask if there's no objection, but I can take it if it's written without objection. But when it's a verbally stated motion, I have to verbally state it back to you to make sure that we are both communicating about the same motion.
Okay.
All right, the next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of a moratorium on landscaping requirements. Alderman Nguyen?
Thank you. Mr. Havlin, will you please come forward? You're here tonight on behalf of Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
What I'm asking that you do in your respective department is go back, create us some relaxed conditions on any areas that are zoned as manufacturing districts here in our city. Relax those, bring the recommendations back to our board by Tuesday, November, I think that's on Tuesday, maybe November the 6th, that first, so in other words, let's do it this way. At our first regular meeting, whatever the date is for the first regular meeting, that would be the first Tuesday in November. Bring those back so the board can take a look at those and make some changes. Right now, I'm very uncomfortable with our landscaping ordinance that are in any areas that are zoned manufacturing districts. I think it would help you, your department. I think it would help the DRC committee, and it would certainly help us as board members so that we can create a reputation for our city to be able to embrace some projects without our developers having to survey trees, and you know what that word survey is. So thank you so much, and I look forward to those recommendations that you'll bring forward to us.
Mr. Mayor, I object. I object to that without having a vote to bring that forward.
Okay?
And the reason I'm doing that is we're a week away, 2 weeks away from having a charrette to be able to look at a lot of issues. And I think we have issues with our code. We understand what those are. But I think to use the term relax or a moratorium on things at this point, I would like for us to just hit the pause button for that just a second and let this process play out so we have a better idea of what we're looking at here.
Right.
Or we have the alternative of everybody saying, identify all the local developers who are determined to not follow the rules that we have, and we can have an exemption list and say, if you're on this list, we will give you a certificate of occupancy or certificate of participation, and the rules don't apply to you. They either have to apply or they don't. And that's why we have to let this process play out. We're seeing intense development pressures, and we're seeing the outside developers come in, and for the most part, they are abiding by the rules. So if the outside developers are abiding by the rules, we have to expect the local developers to abide by the rules. Of course, there's always going to be local conditions, things that have to be dealt with, and we have processes in place to allow that to happen. We have to let the process work. And so I would be in favor of hitting the pause button. I agree, there's some issues that need to be addressed with the landscaping. We got every part of our development code, we have issues that need to be addressed. I would think that we're about to spend a lot of money on a process to help us address those. So if we just hit the pause button, they're going to help us come up with recommendations for how do I think address that problem. Now, that may not impact the immediate developer who's hounding you to come fix that problem right now that they have so they can get their project built. But I think, to me, that's okay. I don't think that code in particular is broken. We just did a redo of it. It's working. All you have to do is ride in the new Lowe's and look at the number of trees that are the new Kroger, the number of trees that are in that parking lot. Look over here and see the number of trees that are in the parking lot of the Starbucks and the Chalet, that shopping center. This thing is working. And we've already made concessions for this particular one, I believe, that brought this up, just like we've done previously, where if you have a very large lot, we're cutting that piece out that's not being disturbed to help you with your plant count. What else do we have to do other than say some folks just don't have to play by the rules? I don't think that's the right way that we as a board need to dictate policy. So that's my position. I yield.
All right, Alderman Nguyen, before I recognize you, the city attorney has stated that for the staff to be directed to present it, the board does need to approve the motion.
Okay.
If it wasn't assented to by the board, in other words, if there was an objection, then to get the policy directive on the books, there would need to be a motion and a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman
You're
Nguyen.
recognized. And by no means, Mr. Havlin, do I mean to inject you into any of this. By no means was I referring to Kroger. That's probably a zone as a C2. That means that it's commercial. I'm referring to manufacturing districts where they make things, manufacture things. And our landscaping ordinance is not conducive to any developers that want to come in and do business with our city. And I'm looking at you, but I'm gonna pretend that you're the board. Anytime a businessman wants to come to Starkville and put an office building here for $1.4 million, guess what? I want him on our tax roll. He's not designing or creating a strip joint. It is a legitimate office space. That's what we want. I want to develop something business friendly here. Having said that, this document that I have, and I won't share the contents of it, but maybe about 2 months ago, it greatly disturbed me when the person just insisted that I take a look at this document, and I couldn't believe some of the information that was in it. Shouldn't nobody have to count trees? That's wrong. That's wrong. I want us to be just like Tupelo and these other progressive areas that are just moving, Oxford. But in order for us to do that, we've got to create some ordinances that are friendly toward our developers. And again, I'm not referring to Kroger. As a matter of fact, what I'm gonna do tonight, I'm gonna put a motion on this table. If you will, board attorney, will you put a motion that I can direct them to bring back some recommendations to us? So I'm gonna let every board member show their hand. I want some development here. In any way that I can facilitate that, I'm ready for it. Council, will you please go ahead, produce that motion for me?
Give me just a minute to draft that,
Yes.
and I will.
Yeah, let's recess while he's doing that. Without objection, I'm gonna take us into brief recess. Any objection? Seeing none, stand in brief recess. Meeting will now come back to order. Alderman Nguyen, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Mayor, members of the board, move that the city planner review and revise the city's landscape ordinance applicable to all manufacturing districts in the city and present those proposed revisions to the board during its regular meeting on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015.
And if you reduce that to writing, as it's been read and reduced to writing without objection, I won't ask for it to be reread. Any objections? Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Nguyen, you wish to speak on the merits?
I do. Presently, the city's landscape ordinance for areas zoned as manufacturing districts is one that is extremely complex and isn't development friendly. I'm respectfully requesting that we as a board embrace a landscape revision on all areas in areas zoned as manufacturing districts. I want us in our city to become development friendly, and this is a way forward. I yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we better do this by show of hands. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, the measure fails.
Now, Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Maynard, did you understand something? Let me say this. I guess I'm surprised at Alderman Maynard's vote because I noticed that he was very slow to raise his hand, and let me say something.
All right.
This-
Let's go, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Nguyen.
Let's go.
May I be recognized?
Alderman Nguyen, you may have the floor, but you may not have the floor to personally attack somebody.
Yeah, I won't. I'm not a personal. I wish that Alderman Maynard had supported my measure tonight, and I guess the reason that I wish that he had supported, as I was in the city engineer's office today, he was the one that asked that I bring this forward and put the relax the conditions of it. Those were his words, because I had something totally different for us planned, and I'm very disappointed in that. I yield the floor at this time.
Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak?
I do. I agree that the landscape restrictions are certainly very restrictive. as they currently stand, but I also, in listening to Mr. Walker's presentation, agreed with him that I think the charrette coming up would be a great way to recognize and direct the people doing the comprehensive plan to develop those landscape ordinances. I think at the charrette, we will have the opportunity to invite any and all developers wishing to speak to address their concerns with the current landscape ordinance in public and vet those out. So I would like to, before we move forward with a new ordinance from the city, at least have the opportunity to let those developers speak to the group that is completing the comprehensive plan. That is why I chose not to vote for this at this time.
All right, that will exhaust discussion on this topic. Alderman Little at the break asked to be recognized for a motion as soon as that topic was exhausted. Alderman Little.
It's a little late in the game, but we probably should have addressed this earlier in fairness to the folks who've been sitting out here for a while. I would like to move item 11A renumbered up as 10I and B right up under there to 10J.
Hold on 1 second. I gotta get to where I can follow you. All right, your first item was 11.
Under 11.2A.
Wait, 11.
Under Department of Business.
Oh, I got you. 11B2A. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. Where do you want to move that one?
10I, renumber.
I think we already have it.
Yeah, we're gonna change it. And
All
then
right.
2B, B2B to item 10J. And then the trash bag item that was formerly I, make it K.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alderman Lincoln, you can, this, I know this will slow you up too, you've been here for a while also, but I recognize these guys have been here a long time, we'd like to get them, that cleared out. And that's it, I yield the floor.
All right, so the motion from Alderman Little is to reorder the agenda, placing what were formerly items 11B2, A, and B as items 10I and 10J respectively, and reordering the agenda to accommodate the change. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is a request for approval of the special events
So moved.
application. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the special events application for the Frostbite Half Marathon event scheduled for January 30, 2016 with in-kind services in the amount of $2,675 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
A motion has been seconded by Alderman Little, and city attorney had previously expressed concerns about the insurance policy submitted. I understand they have resubmitted an insurance policy. They have not.
My understanding, Mr. Haviland, is that insurance has not been submitted for this item yet, correct?
I'm gonna let them speak about their insurance.
No, insurance company won't, quote a special event 3-4 months out, whatever it is, so if we wanna make it contingent on us getting $1 million general liability, then that's fine, but we will get that.
Perfect. Pending presentation of that certificate 30 days prior to the event pursuant to the city's special event policy.
We'll get it to you as soon as the insurance company will let us, hopefully it'll be within 30 days.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, what's the specification you'd like in the motion?
Move approval pending the race organizer presenting the city with a certificate of insurance that complies with the requirements in the city's special events policy.
All right, so without objection, I'm gonna leave the motion as is, but add to it that it is contingent upon production of a certificate of insurance that complies with the city's special event policy. Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the motion stands as originally stated with that change. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Now, before I introduce the next matter, this is the item where a proper insurance policy has been presented. So no contingency needed on this one.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the GSDP special event request for Pumpkin Palooza, set to occur on October 9th, 2015, from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. with in-kind services in the amount of $1,808.91 as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Carver?
It doesn't need to be said in this room, but I guess for the camera, this has turned out to be one of the biggest turnouts we've had as a city. I guess the partnership started that, and it's just carried on through the years, and it's quite amazing to see the turnout that we have for that. So, thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda.
Recuse myself.
The next matter on the agenda is the discussion and a consideration of advertising for refuse and recycling bags. Did he
Mr. Vaughn
think we were on a
accused
different
himself.
item?
He did, yes.
Make sure Alderman Vaughn knows that we're talking about advertising for garbage and recycling bags. I'm sorry, Alderman Vaughn, we're jumping around on what the original agenda was. We're now back on the last two items for board business. Alderman Little reordered the agenda, putting those two items for planning in the middle of board business, so we'll go back to those last two items that were added. And you're now discussing advertising for refuse and recycling bags. Discussion.
Make a motion that we advertise for RFP for refuse and recycling bags as presented at the table and in writing to the clerk.
Is it an RFP or a bid solicitation?
I'm sorry, bid solicitation.
All right, Alderman Maynard has made a motion to advertise for refuse and recycling bags as presented at the table. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is discussion and consideration of accepting the lowest and best bid presented by Samsung for vacuum street sweeper.
Might be recommended.
You may.
Here, I make a motion that we accept the lowest and best bid for the vacuum street sweeper by Samsung Equipment. This bid includes the unit, delivery, 3-year extended bumper-to-bumper chassis warranty, full sweeper warranty, all preventive maintenance for 3 full years, performed quarterly, wash and detail, pickup and delivery back to the sanitation department is included.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to accept the lowest and best bid for a vacuum street sweeper, bid submitted by Samsung Equipment, and the amount of $291,499. The bid includes the unit, 3-year extended bumper-to-bumper chassis warranty, full sweeper warranty, all preventative maintenance for 3 years, performed quarterly, washed and detailed, picked up, and pick up and delivery back to the sanitation department. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to that, the financing for that will be rolled into the financing for the 2 front-loading refuse trucks at that point in time, assuming that passes.
So motion as previously stated, with the end of the motion now reading with financing to be handled along with the financing of the subsequent purchase of 2 commercial garbage trucks. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. One of the items that Ms. Gandy mentioned early on in needing, as we bought new equipment, was the fact that if it could be, if we had a maintenance warranty where there was scheduled and consistent maintenance performed, that is the reason we built that in, is to help protect our equipment and really protect our investment each and every quarter, so that we're not in a position where we're having to perform maintenance on the vehicles. The vehicles are completely warranted as well. I think that'll help us in the long run, keep our fleet operating.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, did I get a second on that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter before you is a request for approval of Clearwater Consultants work authorization. A motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of Clearwater Consultants, Inc. work authorization 15-01 for engineering services for the 2015 FAA AIP project 3-28-0068-020-2015 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Now, Alderman Vaughn, I believe we may be to the item you wish to recuse. It's the conditional use.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
We've got to have a public hearing on this.
Okay,
don't we?
all right.
All right, Mr. Havlin, would you like to offer some brief comments and introduction?
Conditional use, or CU 15-10, is a request by Larry Fair for conditional use to add 3 additional rental houses to the existing 2 rental houses at 208 and 210 Reed Road. Property is located in a C2 zone. Property to the north and the south are currently residential. Property to the east is commercial. West is undeveloped. The 2 parcels are 0.5 acres combined. 10 owners were notified by mail. Legal ad was ran on August 17th and September 21st in the Starkville Daily News. The planning office has received 1 phone call against and 1 letter against to date. Planning and Zoning Commission approved this request on September 8th with 3 conditions. The lots will be aggregated into 1 lot and filed with the county prior to issuance of a building permit. Additional parking for the existing buildings to be provided for in the rear of the existing buildings. And a site plan stamped by a registered professional surveyor or engineered must be submitted to staff prior to being considered by the Board of Aldermen. That 3rd condition has already been met.
Questions or comments from Mr. Havlin? Questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments? Saying none, we'll move to the citizen comment portion of the public hearing. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments on the proposed conditional use may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Is there anyone wishing to make comments? Anyone wishing to make comments? Anyone wishing to make comments? Seeing no one, the item is now eligible for adoption. Alderman Perkins.
Move approval with the conditions as stated.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve of the conditional use with conditions to build residential units on a commercial zone property at 208 and 210 Reed Road as presented. Alderman Perkins, that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly. Wait. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. Chief, could you bring Alderman Vaughn back in? We'll give Alderman Vaughn a moment to re-enter the room. All right, the matter now before you is a request for approval to accept the low quote from MB Hampton in the amount of $4,964 for the D.L. Connor paved ditch drainage project. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve and accept the low quote from MB Hampton in the amount of $4,964 for the D.L. Connor paved ditch drainage project as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Second.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the claims docket. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department as of September 30th, 2015, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2015, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for, motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the municipal compliance questionnaire for year ended September 30, 2015, in accordance with the requirements of section 21-35-31 of the Mississippi Code annotated in 1972 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a presentation of fire apparatus for replacement plan and request for authorization to purchase new fire apparatus. Chief?
Good afternoon, board. I won't be before you long. I sent this to, I think everybody, maybe Mr. Mayor, a copy of our replacement plan for our apparatus. Currently, we are having major issues with apparatus, and we need to do something about replacing them in order to protect the citizens. So I'm gonna go over this replacement plan, and if you have any questions, you can stop at any time. Talk a little bit about the Mississippi Rating Bureau. Of course, we're at a rating 4 right now. If we don't do something, there's a possibility we can lose our rating down the road with the apparatus. I just want to focus on the last line that said, based on all factors involved in the Mississippi Rating Bureau, we need to have a contingency plan for 15 years for our commercial apparatus and 20 years for custom chassis. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Some of the factors we need to consider when we're talking about our trucks, we have the service life, technological life, and economic life. Right now we have 2 vehicles, well actually 3, that's having issues in all 3 of those factors. Talking about current list, leather 1, that's station 1, leather 2, station 2, engine 3, 4, 5, and then we have 2 reserve trucks, leather 3, and then engine 6. Kind of give you a little update on our trucks. This is the custom apparatus, which is good for 20 years. We have replaced it in 2026. Over the last 5 years, especially over this year, we have had a lot of issues with leather 1. We just got it back from the shop in Pelham, Alabama. Currently, we spend up to $35,000 on this truck to get it maintained. And actually, it's out of service right now. We have some more issues with it today, so actually, there'll be a lot more money than that. We have firefighters down there that are capable of working on apparatus, so they save us a lot of money. We buy the parts and they fix it.
Chief, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
You may.
On that latter one, 35,000, and so far this year, and like you said today, it looks like that's going to go up. I was told by one of the firefighters that every time we take that truck out, it increases the chances of us having some issues, whether that's tires or whatever else. And I know we need that size truck to meet the fire rating. But is there an opportunity for a lot of the normal calls that you have? Do we need to take that truck out as often? Do we have alternatives to that?
As of right now, we don't. If we can purchase these two apparatus where we have some type of alternative, we could take one of those reserve apparatus and put it at Station 1 and drive in instead of taking this out. This is the money truck. It's about 3 miles to the gallon.
So you're saying still having that one potentially at ladder 1, but having another engine that on the normal runs where the ladder 1 truck might not be necessary would potentially save some maintenance cost?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Ladder 2, this is our newest apparatus, and you can see, not long after we got it, we had to spend about $13,000 to replace engine in the truck. 2 years ago, well, about a year ago, we had to replace the engine in the truck. Right now, it's our best running truck. We have no issues with it as of right now. Engine 3, this commercial apparatus, and I talked a little before about commercial versus custom. This is the 15-year truck. It should last for 15 years. After 15 years, it's supposed to be replaced. This should be replaced in 2012. So, and this is our frontline apparatus. So that means that this is the truck that we drive every day. It's past the technological life because you see how it's built different than other trucks. So this one is hard to drive around. It actually functions pretty good, but getting through the city, getting through tight spots is pretty difficult because of the way it's designed. Engine 4, this is a custom apparatus, have to be replaced in 2023. This is actually one of the trucks Mississippi State, this is the truck Mississippi State purchased for us. You can see we have a pretty high maintenance bill on this one. And today as well, this one also was down. This one was in H&O in West Point right now. The turbo blew on this one this morning, so we're down 2 trucks as of right now. Engine 5 was purchased in 1992. This should have been replaced in 2007. You can see this is also serving as the frontline engine right now. Engine 6 is our reserve pumper. It's currently not in operating condition. It runs, but it would not pump, so we would actually like to place it on the surplus list to get rid of this truck, to maybe take the funding and get something else to put it towards some other type of vehicle. And then we have ladder 3. This apparatus serves as a reserve pump. However, because of the issue with ladder 1, today we moved it up to frontline engine. The problem with this truck is the ladder on the truck actually do not function. It didn't pass inspection, so it's not a functioning ladder truck. We can use it for pumping, but not for the ladder. My recommendation would be replace engine 3 and engine 5 because they have direct effect on the city rating. Not only that, but they have a direct effect on the safety of our firefighters and the safety of the citizens. If we can't get to the scene safely and we can't get the trucks to operate safely, we're going to have problems getting people out of the house if we need to, putting structure fires out. So these are 2 critical items we need to get taken care of as soon as possible. Initially, earlier I was going to ask the city to purchase, and we were purchasing one apparatus, but after talking with Ms. Harden and talking with Budget Chair, Aldermen Maynard, we talked about, right now we at, you can see in the third line, we have $104,000 left on ladder 1 to be paid off in December 28th of this year. We can take those funds and we can actually purchase 2 trucks for that amount of money. Every year in June we get state rebate money, which I think is around $125,000. My recommendation would be purchase 2 apparatus. We have 3 companies we're looking at right now, but narrow it down to those 2. And it's going to take 9 to 10 months to build these apparatus, so the sooner we do this, the better off it's going to be. In addition to that, November the 1st, there's a 3% increase, so about an $18,000 increase on the apparatus. If we get them, we make a decision before November the 1st, we can get it at a reduced price. We can utilize the 10-year lease purchase agreement, which would allow the city to delay its first payment to 2017 budget.
Alderman Maynard.
Chief, what you're saying is that we have money budgeted currently every year in the fire department budget this year, $104,313 payment, budgeted. We've been budgeting every year for ladder 1. That money won't have to be budgeted in the future, so we'll budget that same amount, or roughly that same amount, for the purchase of 2 new engines, which cost less than a ladder truck, so we'll actually be able to purchase those 2 engines on that lease with that same amount of money that's already budgeted?
It's gonna be pretty much close to the same, probably about, 1.1 million for two.
Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Walker.
So Chief, the two new that you're looking to purchase to replace those old two, in terms of size or types of trucks, are they similar? Are they gonna be engine trucks? Are they gonna be, something that can be smaller and more flexible? Or what will the new purchases, what will they be and how will they, impact your fleet?
That would be very similar to this, same size as this one.
Okay.
We have to have something that we have at least 4 people can fit on, so they're gonna be about the same size, but this is more, mobile to get to the city, especially to the tight spots. So that's what we'll be looking at.
Okay, thank you. And last thing, will these be the commercial grade or will these be the custom?
Custom.
Alderman Carver.
I know you put these maintenance figures in red, but is that typical maintenance cost, or are these, are these exorbitant of what they normally are? Or is this kind of average?
They're actually a little bit lower, like I said before, we have personnel that actually work on the vehicle, so makes it a little bit lower. The latter one is a little bit extensive. It shouldn't be that much, and we shouldn't be replacing motors in trucks that's 2 years old, but.
What company was that had the motor go out?
Pierce.
Has Pierce offered any kind of rebating on the new motor we had to put in it, or, as I know it's out of warranty, but they didn't offer to help us in any way?
They did not.
So basically, 104,000 is rolling off in December of this year when ladder one gets paid for.
Right.
And so, I guess the conversation's been with Alderman Maynard and yourself, probably more than any of us. He's the budget chair, so the city would take on the responsibility of one with our general funds, and then you would, with the new monies from ladder one rolling off, you'd pay for the other.
That was the initial thought, but after looking today and talking to Ms. Harden, I think we'll be able to pay for both of them with the rebate money that we get every year. So.
Everything look good on your end?
Yeah, there won't be any additional money coming out of the general fund. He'll be able to take it with the money he's already has currently budgeted.
I think it's past time. I don't know the number of one, but there's one riding up down Highway 12. It's kind of embarrassing almost, but it's 5. It's past due. I think Ms. Sistrunk would also remember these days, and we're talking about 2017 for years coming out on the fire side from a budgeting standpoint, but it's a little more optimistic than what I expected, so I'll probably support you any way I can.
Alderman Little.
This is to the budget chair. Could we spend the numbers as far as a lease versus local financing possible, maybe a lower interest rate? You don't always come out with the best on the lease purchase typically.
We certainly can.
Just to check on that.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
What was the question one more time?
See if we check local financing options on something like this versus if that's an option.
The problem we may run into is state law there, and that's the reason a lot of these vehicle agreements end up getting done as lease purchase, because we really don't have any clear legal authority just to take a standard bank loan for most purchases.
Is that something we can check into as far
Yeah.
from Mr. Latimer?
I'll look
Find
at it.
out for us? Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? We don't have a motion yet. Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion that we move forward with the purchase of, go back to that fourth slide. That last slide. Make a motion that we get bids for the purchase to replace engine 3 and engine 5.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to authorize the advertisement for bids to replace engine 3 and engine 5 of the fire department fleet. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any further discussion? Alderman Little.
It's really a moot point if we're not gonna check into the financing option. Should we make a friendly amendment on that?
We're just getting bid, but yeah, go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez.
Should we make, and take the lower of the two options, either lease or lower interest rate, or? Or do we
You'll get the
address
bid.
that after we get the bid?
Yeah, that's, I think so.
Okay, that's fine.
And I have the bids, I can submit those tomorrow.
You
I
already
have
have the
some,
bids?
I have not bids, I have some prices that we can look into.
I'd say let's get formal bids, and then we can, next meeting, we can address, and give us time to
Would we have them by the
review.
next meeting? Do you have time for an advertisement? Bid opening? Except he needs to
Let's
be
give it time.
November.
You're right.
I think to advertise it and then to open and get them to the next agenda may take more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you need to beat November, right?
November 1 or November 30?
Maybe we have a special meeting
November.
there.
Get it in
That's an
about
option.
Friday.
Hold it, she's running date calculation. If it's physically possible, let's try to get it done. Any further discussion? Alderman Carver.
I think from a morale perspective, this has gotta help. Help your men out, and also, you know, I discussed this, you told me that several of them mechanically inclined, that they've saved us considerable cost as far as maintenance if we paid for the parts, they know how to fix the small things. If you could, just as a board, just send them our thanks, I guess, because I didn't know that, and you told me that, it was kinda shocking to me, but, you know, for them to do that, really, what you told me would really help us out over the last few years, so if you just tell them thanks.
Definitely.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request for permission to allow, motion has been made by Alderman Carver to allow Fire Marshal Mark McCurdy to attend, and Fire Marshal Steve McMullen to attend the Fire Investigators Association 2015's Fall Seminar, October 21st and 23rd, 2015, at the Riverwalk Hotel in Vicksburg, Mississippi, with advanced travel in an approximate, with an approximate cost of $1,006 as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is request for permission to remove surplus items. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to grant permission to remove surplus items from the Starkville Fire Department inventory list as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of, did I hear motion? Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of a contract for voice over IP telephone services for the new City Hall building as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Alderman Maynard.
Mr. Joel, would you give us a quick overview of this new phone system? We'll actually be able to call your desk directly, is that what I understand?
Well, we'll have the same number of exposed public numbers, we're just porting over our numbers, so 323-2525 that you're used to calling, or some people used to call up here, that'll still ring to City Hall. We'll still have internal extensions just because of the number of folks there, but the new system is gonna be a serious upgrade over what we have now. Technology's a lot better, it'll be a lot more manageable from our end, from staff end, and a lot easier to use from the user end as well, and a lot more reliable, we hope.
So, does that mean you will have a direct line, or other employees?
Well, not necessarily, I mean, we can set up direct lines, but for now, we're just porting over the numbers we have now. We only have about 6 or 8 exposed public numbers that we have going directly to certain folks, but we can always set those up too if there's a need, but there will be extensions like we're used to having just because of the sheer numbers.
Internally.
Right. But we can have a publicly exposed number that would just dial Joel Clements' office if we wanted to. We could
That
set
would be
those up.
ideal, so someone doesn't have to touch a call.
Right. And there's all kind of neat features with the call forwarding, and there's a user interface where the actual user can make some changes, and there's call groups and all kind of neat functionality that's easily accessible. Unlike the current phone system, it's a very esoteric, you have to dial certain number codes. There is no real display to give you any feedback over what you're doing. If you have your reference book over here, you're dialing blah, 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 This is more user friendly, so it's a big upgrade from both perspectives, I think.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Board, just be aware, you've seen from the red line version in the packet that this contract contains limitation of liability provisions, waivers of otherwise applicable warranties, indemnification provisions, and choice of law provisions that the Mississippi AG opines violate public policy. We struck all of those provisions. All of those strikings were rejected by the vendor. So the contract is as is from the vendor, and Mr. Clements felt like, given the urgency of the situation and the importance of the contract, it was right to bring forward. But you'll be voting with that informed consent that those provisions are still in the contract.
Further discussion? Any further discussion?
I'm
Alderman Little.
gonna say one more thing about the IP, voice over IP. It is a great system, but understand if the internet goes down, there is no phone system at City Hall.
And we will have a backup internet connection.
Great.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval to hire Richard Thomas Tyson. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to hire Richard Thomas Tyson to fill the vacant position of police officer in the police department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval to hire Vicky Hampton.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of the hire of Vicky Hampton to fill a vacant position of administrative assistant in the mayor and city administration office as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval to hire Joseph Wesley.
So moved.
A motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve the hire of Joseph Wesley Champion, Justin Mark Hatcher, and Orlando Randall to fill the vacant positions of apprentice lineman in the utilities department as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval.
So moved.
A motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve to advertise to fill two vacant positions of operator in the landscape division of sanitation and environmental services as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the
So
Mississippi, motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve the Mississippi Partnership Counseling to Career, C2C, Program Work Experience Worksite Agreement through GTPDD, and authorization to participate in this program as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for authorization to purchase two Ford Interceptors. Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to authorize the purchase of two Ford Police Interceptors utility all-wheel drive at the state contract price of $52,822. Both vehicles from drug seized funds as presented. Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Alderman Nguyen has seconded the motion. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. That motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for,
So moved.
a motion has been made by Alderman Carver to authorize the removal of defective body cameras whose serial numbers are 05DO-340F, -05DO-33ED, 05DO-33DA and 05DO-3392 from the police department inventory and return to the vendor for repair or replacement at no cost to the city as presented. Alderman McCarver, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman McCarver, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a consideration
So
of,
moved.
motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve a request to enter into an agreement with the United States Department of Justice for the funding of 3 certified officers for SPD, Community Oriented Policing Unit, and to authorize the personnel officer to advertise to fill these positions. This would increase the sworn police force by 3 officers, the salary plus all fringe benefits for 3 officers for a period of 36 months, which would be funded at 75%, with the remaining 25% match coming from the city of Starkville. At the conclusion of the 36-month grant, the city of Starkville will continue these salary positions for a period of 12 additional months, as presented. Alderman McCarver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman McCarver, you wish to speak on the merits?
I'm just glad to see that this, the chief's here. I think this is a great opportunity. I guess my only question was about the 12 continued months. Is that something that you feel comfortable funding? I know that's a long way out, but is that something that you placed on there, or did that come with a grant?
That's it. That's the way the grant is written. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this would get you, that's 3 may not seem like a lot, but also with that and the reserve officers tonight, you've gotta feel, it's gotta feel good, you know?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, stay right there. I recognize you.
You may.
Chief, just to elaborate on this a little bit and tell us where this puts you in terms of your staff and where we need to go per your earlier requests and inquiries.
With the 2 that the board gave me, and these 3 give us 60. And, of course, that's not counting the reserve force.
So does that, how does that put you overall, and where do we need to go from here in terms of getting you to the level of staffing that you have earlier requested?
Well, it puts me in a good position. I mean, at least we're making steps in the right direction. We need to be more close to that 65 number. Actually, we need to be over 65, but 65 is what we'll be satisfied in standards by the International Association of Chiefs of Police at 2.5 per 1,000, but that's only, of course, for the 25,000, and that's not counting the students.
So as to additional officers that you may want from this administration would be 5 more, if that can be identified at some point later?
Well, I would like 10 more, but
Okay.
definitely 5 more.
Oh, yes.
5 more would satisfy that standard, and you know, we'll be in the game at that point.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, very good. Great work. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank all of y'all for working with me and getting additional manpower.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Matter clearly passes. I believe the city attorney has some comments about the Walmart Foundation agreement he'd like to make.
Board, this grant agreement is clean, except it does contain a choice of law provision that says that in the event of a dispute, Arkansas law will apply. Why Arkansas law? Well, it's a contract with Walmart. The AG has come out even more strongly against choice of law provisions, saying that a city is actually constitutionally prohibited from entering into a contract with a choice of law provision containing law from another state. This contract has not been negotiated yet due to the recent presentation of the contract in the board packet. So the board can act tonight with informed consent that that provision's still in there, or direct me to negotiate with Walmart.
And I think there's a 0% chance that Walmart's gonna negotiate that clause out. Alderman Perkins.
The governing law would be Arkansas. I mean, it's something we just need to have changed. Mississippi, and and we don't know what Walmart may do. I think it certainly would be good for the board, for our in the city, for the city attorney, just at least make an effort. Is there any urgency on passing this tonight? I think the city attorney can.
Chief, can you wait?
Yes, sir, without a doubt. There's no urgency on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that that the city attorney be directed to enter into negotiation with Walmart about arriving at a contract that would be acceptable to the board and the city.
The
That's my motion.
All right, Alderman Perkins made a motion to direct the city attorney to enter into negotiations with Walmart to negotiate a contract that would be acceptable to the city. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for approval to enter into an agreement with the Office of Highway Safety.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Carver to approve of entering into an agreement with the Office of Highway Safety for the amount of $111,097 for the funding of 2 DUI officers, overtime for DUI enforcement, equipment, travel, and LEL luncheons and office supplies for LEL. This funding is 100% reimbursable with fringe benefits paid for by SPD as presented. Alderman Carver, set your motion.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of approving an advertisement for bids for 2 40-yard front-loaded garbage trucks.
Have
Discuss.
you recognized?
You may.
Mayor, I move approval of the advertisement for bids for 2 40-yard front-loader garbage trucks as presented at the table.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the advertisement for bids for 2 40-yard front-loader garbage trucks as presented at the table. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Yes, sir. We reluctantly had to raise the rates of sanitation this year by 75 cents per month per household in order to get some new equipment into the hands of our sanitation workers who work so hard. This is the culmination of that effort. I think getting these 2 trucks will allow us to be much more efficient in the collection of those bins on a day-to-day basis.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is request for approval of
So moved.
motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the Starkville Utilities, to approve of Starkville Utilities moving forward with the use of the logo as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the participation agreement amendments between the
So
city.
moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the participation agreement amendments between the city of Starkville and TVA and Mississippi State University and the city of Starkville through December 31st, 2016, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a request for authorization.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to authorize the issuance of a notice to proceed to Stidham Construction, the lowest unit price bidder, to replace failing gravity sewer line segments in the Plantation Home subdivision as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. That will exhaust the open session portion of the agenda. We do have matters for your potential consideration in executive session. Motion to go to closed session is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to go into closed session
Second.
to determine whether there's need for an executive session. It's been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure passes. I'll ask the public to vacate the premises so the board can begin closed session deliberations.